something interesting is sure to happen. Well, I think you ought to tell me who you are first. Mr. Rabbit? Then why did you ask the question?
Goodness, this is quite extraordinary.
Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?
But today is turning into the most curious adventure I've ever had.
Hello and welcome to the Alice in Wonderland podcast. I'm your host, Georgia Ellis, and this is really a place for you to open your mind, let your sense of wonder or imagination, and most importantly, curiosity loose. And I've got a really special episode for you today, and you're probably not going to hear much from me in this episode. This is an episode of a recording which was done in 2014 with Allison Sutter and my late dad, my father, who passed away 3 years ago. And he shares his journey of healing. And I think this is a really powerful example of how you can use what you already have to achieve your goals. So my father's goal that he's talking about was his goal to move from being diagnosed as a quadriplegic and only having a couple of months to live to being able to really surprise the doctors and turn the tables on the prognosis and diagnosis that he had. And he shares with Allison in this wonderful interview some of the things that he did to do that. And I was really proud of my dad and really thought that his message and his story needs to get out there. You need to hear it from him. I share his story quite a lot in the workshops that I run from time to time, and it's really impactful in what he did. And I really wanted to honour him for the work that he did, but also to celebrate 12 months of having the Alice in Wonderland podcast, because the podcast was actually, when I decided to do this, it was in honour of my late father. And I thought, what a really beautiful way to celebrate 12 months of being on the air by letting you hear from some really words of wisdom from my father. And I hope you enjoy it. And please reach out to Allison. Her details will be in the show notes if you would like to reach out to Allison to learn a little bit more about the work that she does as well. So enjoy, and please stay curious and have an open mind.
But today is turning into the most curious adventure I've ever had.
When I was a quadriplegic, I saw myself walking.
Yeah.
I saw my limbs moving, and that was a picture that was firmly entrenched in my mind.
Can you take me back? Take me back to. Now I'm going to ask people to watch the interview with Georgia before they watch this one. But take me back to the place, because what really struck me was when she talked about you got the misdiagnosis, right? It was a misdiagnosis.
Yes.
Lyme.
Yes.
And then it seemed like they kind of said, hey, there's nothing we can do. You're kind of on your own. Is that correct?
They offered me treatment,
Yeah.
which really wasn't crash hot. It wasn't going to do my body any good at all.
Yeah.
And so I rejected that and went on the road to healing myself with the help of some very good people. And visualization was right up at the top. It really was.
So was there a point, so you're misdiagnosed, you're, put in this position where you feel like you really want to do something different than the diagnosis they gave you, which was you'll be in a wheelchair forever. Was that correct?
Yes, that's right. 2 months to live.
Yeah. So is this a conscious thing you're doing, that you're deciding to see yourself in a place where it's different than your physicality is presenting to you right now?
Yes, most definitely.
Can you just talk about that a little bit? Because the biggest hurdle that I see people having is getting stuck in what is. It's called the isness, right? Mm-hmm. They're stuck in what is. So they don't even bother to go beyond mentally into this place of what could be. And they're stuck. And they're stuck in this cycle, but it didn't happen to you. So obviously it's a very organic thing as humans that we do, but tell me about that part.
Right, well, let's go back to the beginning. I was at home. I had Lyme disease. I knew I had Lyme disease because natural physicians told me, and I knew because of the symptoms I was having that I had Lyme disease. No question, no doubt about that at all.
Okay.
Very painful and very debilitating. I was sitting at home one day and I got up out of the chair to walk to the next room and I just collapsed in a heap on the floor. That happened the day after, the same thing happened. I ended up in hospital, in the emergency ward at hospital, and I had a team of doctors, nurses, and you name it, all around the bed trying to work out what was going on. Because Lyme disease is not recognised as a disease. It's not recognised at all in Australia.
Wow.
As a disease, even though there are thousands of people walking around with it.
Yeah.
Now, while this was all going on, I heard a little voice say to me, Ian, everything will be fine. That was as clear as a bell to me.
Wow, that's
Ian,
cool.
everything will be fine. I found myself in 2 wards in the hospital, but I ended up in the oncology ward, and that's where the diagnosis came from. And it was quite a dire diagnosis. They really pointed the bone at me, so to speak, but I let that go straight through to the keeper.
Nice.
And so the journey started from there. I was completely paralysed from the neck down. Nothing worked, no feeling, nothing. And two of my 2 big toes were just sticking up in the air like that. I knew I had legs. You could see them. And my toes were sticking up at right angles to my feet. I thought, well, that doesn't look right.
That's incredible.
So,
Holy cow.
So I thought to myself, well, we've got to work on those toes first. We'll get those toes working. And I just visualised that those toes, both of them, were sitting down flat where they were supposed to be.
Were you in a context when you're visual? Are you actually, literally in your head, is there a picture of just the toes moving where you can see them, or are you walking on the ground, or how is it contextually in your head?
In my head, I was just focusing on the 2 big toes.
That you could see.
At this particular time. And I just looked at them and I said, they're going to move. They're moving. They're going to move. Because I had this picture in my mind that I was completely healed and walking, but the toes were the first cab off the rank. And gradually the toes started to move.
What was the time frame involved between your decision, because this really is a decision, right? This is a decision. This is a shift in belief.
Exactly.
This is a commitment to, I'm not going to accept what is, I'm going to create what is.
Yes.
So how long of a time frame did you see personally between?
Probably a couple of days.
Wow.
Couple of days. Because I was just totally focusing on that. There was nothing else. Those 2 toes were going to be moving and sitting where they're supposed to be.
Were you aware of the connection between the visualization and the felt sense of belief? Was there an awareness of that? Or was there, because a lot of times I think people struggle with seeing the thing or saying a positive affirmation, but there's a disconnect. There's a sadness, or there's an anxiety, or there's a doubt. Were you aware of those 2 connections being made for you?
Well, to me, I knew without a doubt that those toes were going to move. And I knew without a doubt that that was only the first cab off the rank, that there was a process that I needed to go through so that I would be walking again.
Yeah.
But that was the first, to me, that was the first, and it was real. It was real. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I would be walking again. I just knew. And I had the help of Georgia, of course, and my oldest daughter. She's an energy healer, so I had a great team of people encouraging me and giving me tools to work with. Because I've been exposed to this sort of thing through Born Rich. I think you know about Born Rich. So I knew all the principles. I knew what to do and how to do it. But this time, it was really serious. I mean, I was just...
Did you ever experience frustration, though? Was there ever a sense of having to sort of experience it and then just be like, I don't choose that. I choose this, even though it's there?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of mind games went on in my mind, as you can probably imagine. Oh, yeah, Ian, this is just a lot of hogwash. And I would have to push those aside and just break through them. I just had to say, it is not. It is not. Just get out of my thoughts, those negative thoughts, and just push on with it. Push on with it.
From that place, then did you continue as the movement began, the visualization of what could possible expand, or how did that occur for you?
Right, the toes were first, they started to move. Then I said to myself, well, the knees are next. And I started to focus on the knees, and they started to move very slowly up. I could see them moving under the blankets when I was lying in hospital.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, this is quite good. This is good. And next were my hands. I couldn't move at all. My hands and arms just couldn't move. Fingers, nothing. Just nothing. So I concentrated on those. And I saw them moving in my mind. And they started to move. The fingers first, just starting to move. I think it was in the right hand first.
Right.
So it was a process of a change that I saw happening in my mind, and it just came to be. That's what happened.
Did you also have, while you're envisioning the smaller, I guess you could say, which they're not small by getting your toes and fingers to move by any means, but in terms of your context, were you able to sort of have a double vision, so to speak, where you had that, but you also had the whole organism moving, the whole body moving as well, or were you just holding the toes and the fingers? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I always had this vision of me being totally healed, which included paralysis gone, walking, doing things. I had goals already set for what I wanted to do, and I had those pictured in my mind. Georgia actually made a video for me. She said, what are your goals, Dad? What do you like doing? And she put them on a video, and I just watched it all the time. And I saw myself walking, cycling, kayaking, playing my musical instruments again, and driving, and virtually doing everything that I love to do. And that video was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
One of the goals that Georgia thought up for me. She lives on the edge of a forest. Well, she used to. She shipped it out, and there was a certain tree quite a way in from the road, and she saw that tree, and she scratched my name in the bark. Ian, this is my tree. She said, this is your tree, Ian, and one day soon we'll both walk to that tree together and you will hug it. I said, that sounds fantastic. So the picture of that tree was there. All these pictures in my mind were there, and they were true. They were true. As far as I was concerned, they were true.
Yeah.
Even though there were doubts. I mean, the old self and the old mind is still there, and it keeps trying to come in and crowd everything. You've got to be on guard and say, no, this is not right. This is not right. This is where I'm going. That's the picture that I've got.
Right. So if somebody were to go through a situation like this in terms of struggling with trying to use visualization as a healing protocol, would you advise them to seek out others who are like mindset, or can they do this individually, or what is, in your experience, the best environment to have around you when you're going through something like this?
Oh, of course, it's great to have like-minded people who know what it's all about to encourage you, and when you're down to say, hey, come on, this is not the right way, come on. I was very fortunate, of course, to have that. I had a great team of people practitioners, you name it. They were all around me. I made sure that I had those people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could do it yourself, but much better to have people that are like-minded.
So
much better.
If you were going through a situation, if you were making a list of priorities to make, I think one of those would be, find others who can support your vision. As illogical as it sounds in the time frame, it's got to be one or two,
Well, that's right. Well, when you're in the right frame of mind, those sort of people come to you. I mean, it's amazing. I had people come to me and I thought, wow, where did this person come from? I don't even know this person.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
What do you think was happening? So can you describe the connection between the thought and the physical guidance or the physical reaction in your body? What was that like to live through? Because, I'm sure there are people who question the connection between thinking something and the actual response physically. But can you describe, were there any unusual thoughts or sensations or things that came to you where you connected, like, different hormones being released when you think a different way or anything of that sort, internally? Or was it just a reaction that was happening?
That's a hard question. I had photographs on the wall in the hospital ward. I had positive sayings all around me. I was just absolutely steeped in that environment. And I knew things were happening because I thought, wow, my legs are now moving. Wow.
Yeah.
My hands are moving. I can feed myself. I can read a book now.
Right.
This all happened within a few weeks.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And sometimes you get hit with news that's not all that good. Because when I started moving again, the nurses noticed what was going on. I was actually feeding myself. And I thought, wow, Ian, you're not really a fully quadriplegic anymore. We'll try and get you reassessed. But and I got the news, the doctors came in and they did all their tests and what have you, and the report came back, no, there's no real hope for Ian. I mean, we're just not going to change his assessment at all.
So wait. So you were moving, yet the test said you couldn't move? Is that kind of the way it was? Is that how you're describing it?
Yes. Well, the test, I don't know whether you know what they do to assess you. They come in with their little hammers and they hit all the reflex points and reflex points, and the report came back no, because I really wanted to get into rehab. Yeah, that's what I wanted, to get into rehab. But no, we only send people to rehab if in say a month to 6 weeks they'll be improved to such an extent that they can look after themselves if they go home.
So don't you think that's fascinating, though, that you can have physical evidence of something, yet somebody with a strong enough belief can deny the physical evidence that's right in front of them? I mean, to me, that speaks, it speaks to your story in two different ways, because first, it is belief that changed you. It was your belief that you could do something, but then in the same context, there's another individual going, watching the legs move, saying, it can't be happening, or it shouldn't happen, or it won't happen. So there's, really all we have is belief. That's kind of where we have 7 million different perspectives and beliefs, and
exactly.
So
exactly. I ended up in a high care nursing home, where high care nursing home is high care. They have to do everything for you. And the day I arrived there, I said to myself, this is the place that I'm going to learn to walk again and walk out of this place, which normally you don't do in a high care situation. You go in there to die. That's the reality of it. But it wasn't my reality.
So you had to ignore reality. So not even you had to ignore reality of what is to create all along this way. I mean, it's sort of a non-stop, what's the right word? Non-stop, not avalanche, but, this onslaught of visual data that will not confirm where you're going most of the time. It's kind of what it sounds like you're saying.
Well, that's right, because one of the doctors said to the physiotherapist in the nursing home, "Do you think Ian will ever walk again?" And the physiotherapist said, "I don't really know. But what I do know is that I don't understand what's going on in his body at this particular time, because I was standing up. I was standing up at this stage, and the physiotherapist and the doctors were amazed, and the staff just could not believe what they were seeing.
Yeah.
They just could not believe it."
That what you're saying is so poetic in a way, because they're looking at you, yet they couldn't believe it.
That's right.
There's a huge disconnect there.
That's right.
You know.
Yes, and they said to me, I started walking. I started walking with a 4-wheeler roller frame, and they would say to me things like, "Ian, have you had your first fall yet?" And I said, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
What's this first fall business? I'm not going to have a fall ever, full stop. And I didn't. I've never had a fall in all this time.
That's amazing.
They're all waiting for me to have a fall. And I thought, why would I want to have a fall for? It's just stupid.
Right.
But that's the sort of messages. That's the sort of messages that I was fighting against.
Well, I think there's a we're not aware that every subject is two subjects, and you are the absolute physical proof that there is health and, well, there's the subject and the absence of the subject. There's health and illness is just the absence of health, and you can focus on one or the other. At any given time, free will exists, and our choice is completely ours, regardless of the statement of reality that you're being given. You can create a different one if you so choose, and you just got to decide which end of the stick am I going to focus on, because I can do both.
That's right. Both. And keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on.
So how long was it then between your decision that I will walk to the touching of the tree? How long was that?
Oh, that was quite a few months. Can't recall exactly, but it would have been, I was in the nursing home, and at this particular stage I was going out. Georgia would come and pick me up and we'd go for a drive or whatever. Yeah. And I was leaving the nursing home, going on excursions quite a lot. So it would have been during that time. I was in the nursing home for 10 months. So it would have been up, 10 months, thereabouts. I'd say during that time, towards the end of that time, Georgia drove me up to the national park, and we both got out of the car. And I said, "How far is this tree?"
A mile up the hill, we're just kidding.
Yeah, that's right. And she said, "Oh, just up the track." And I started walking up the track, and I had to clamber over fallen trees and rocks, and I thought, wow, what's going on here? Where is this tree? And there it was. It wasn't a fantastic tree, but it had been there for a long, long time, because a lot of fallen branches around it. The bark was falling off. It didn't look a fantastic tree at all, but to me it was, because I walked up to it and I hugged it.
That's phenomenal. Did anyone notice when you're in this nursing home, did anybody else notice that you came and went? Or were all the other, people that were there as patients pay any attention? Didn't they just, what's he doing and how did he do that? Did they?
That's right, yeah. Well, once I started to walk with an aid, I walked, they said to themselves, "I want to walk. Oh, look at Ian, he's walking. I want to walk too." And they caused quite a stir.
Now we have to have dances. Nobody, sit down. Everyone sit down.
That's right.
That's funny.
Yes. It was a sad place, though, the nursing home. I learnt a lot through this journey, because I was well and truly in the system.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean when I say that. Mm-hmm. And there are horrible things that happen in the system. And
if somebody could watch this video, and let's say they don't have somebody they can call upon. They're looking for somebody, they're attracting those people, but right at this moment, they don't have that person. If you could grab their hand and give them that place to be, to hold on to, what do you want to tell them? Because I know people are going to watch this and they're not going to have necessarily all the systems in place.
Yes.
But you just need that little bit, just that little bit to hold on to.
One of the things I'd probably say would get hold of some books on the subject that are easy to read. As you probably know, there are tons of books around on this subject. Some of them I found quite hard to grasp what they were really getting at. But Georgia brought a book into me. It was quite an old book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, which I found very helpful, easy to read. It's been around for a long time, and that helped me. I read it, and I thought, this is amazing, what's happened to these people, because all of it, it's a mindset and a belief system that you've got to start somewhere. And I think the first thing you've got to think about is, yes, I'm going to change. I'm going to change the mindset environment that I'm in. Once that decision is made, then I think it'll start falling into place. And even if you start to get, this is a lot of gobbledygook, but this is crazy stuff. You've just got to push that out of your mind and just keep going ahead. Just keep going. And the people will come to you. I mean, it's just amazing.
So you're basically saying, look for the miracles, don't look for the disasters. Consciously look for the, wake up every day and say, today I'm going to see it, and don't go to sleep until you find it.
That's right. That's right. All that sort of, yes, that's a mindset. And if you're not used to having that mindset of everything, if you've got a critical spirit, or that you're always finding fault in something and all this, and the weight of the world is on your shoulders all the time, it's not going to be easy to reverse that, but you've got to start somewhere. You've really got to start. Otherwise, you'll be part of the system. Yeah. And you don't really want to be that. I can tell you, you do not really want to be there.
Yeah.
You don't.
So also too, like what I'm trying to get you to do is talk directly to somebody too on the other screen, as if you were sitting next to their bedside.
Yes.
And say, Judy, this is what I need you to do. I need you to suspend your disbelief momentarily for a moment of extraordinary grace. That kind of thing, because the internet is so prevalent. There's access to so much. And if they could hear you, having gone through it, talking directly to them, just do this, because it's possible. I am proof that you can suspend your disbelief in the midst of the chaos in order to go where you'd like to go. And where do you want to go?
Well, yes, that's an interesting question. I've been talking to a few people, of course, because Lyme disease here is quite a political football at the moment. And there are so many people that are just caught up in the system. And I spoke to one lady who, one of our daughters said, this lady has got Lyme disease. And but the system is saying that she hasn't. And they're trying to find out what's wrong with her. They're feeding her all this stuff. She's on steroids. They were giving her lumbar punctures and all that. I thought, oh, gosh, what is going on? What's happening? So I sat down and talked to her. And I said, Leanne, how are you feeling right at this particular point of time? Where are you at right now? And she didn't really know where she was, because she was torn between the system, and my oldest daughter had actually spoken to her about what was going on in her body, but she could not connect to that. Well, I said, Leanne, you know that you're a marvellous creation. There's only one of you on the whole of this earth, and you're a beautiful person. I said, you've got a fantastic mind, that the power in that mind will enable you to do anything at all. But you've really got to start and focus on what you really want. What do you want? Do you want to be stuck in this hospital bed with them experimenting on you, trying all this stuff which is doing you more harm than good? What do you really want? And she was thinking about it, and she couldn't quite make it. It's a choice that you've got to make. You've got to make this choice. If you don't make a choice, you'll be stuck where you are. And not only you'll be stuck there, you'll probably get worse. Your whole emotional life, your spiritual life, your physical, it'll just get worse. Yeah. And it's that decision that a person's got to make. Once that decision's made, yes, I'm going to change. I'm not going to be like this. I want to be like that, and have a vision of what you're going to be and what you're going to do, and go from there. But it's a decision. It's a decision.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I know people are going to watch that and they're going to rewind. They're going to go, that part is genius. It is so, I mean, you can just be like, sit there and soak all that in. It's so wonderful. One last question. So once you got to the tree, you then applied this to everything else, didn't you? You started a new business? Did you start a new business, Georgia said, or was that?
No, I didn't start a new business. I sort of came back. When I came home, I started to do things again that I did before.
Okay.
Because the journey was about 2 years or that. It cost quite a lot of money. Things were getting a bit tight that way.
Yeah.
So where were we again? What was the question?
So you applied this skill that you naturally organic, and all humans have this skill. We just need to be reminded that we have it and use it. But you took it and you kept using the idea of visualizing in your life, didn't you? And you went back to the business and you kept using that skill to be successful in the business. Yes. And I don't remember what else Georgia said, but other areas too, I believe.
Oh yes, I'm driving again, driving the car again. And I actually rode the bike for a short time just recently. Mm-hmm. The things that were in that video that Georgia did for me, mm-hmm. I've still got them fixed in my mind. I know what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I'm doing them. I was on the exercise bike at home because I'm on quite a rigorous exercise program to get my Greek god body back again. I've got to
Good for you.
I've got to get back exercising.
Yeah.
And I was on the exercise bike, and on the wall at the side of the room there was my normal bike. And I thought, and I said to the bike, I actually spoke to the bike.
That's great.
And I said, okay, bike, it is your turn now. So I got off the exercise bike and rolled the bike out, took it up the driveway, hopped on and rode it.
Nice. Wow. Well, you are absolutely incredible. I mean, that's just, it's like, it makes it look so easy. You made it look so easy. And I know it's not, but it also could be if you decide it is, you know?
Yes. You're right. It's a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That it is easy, but it's not.
Right.
The hardest part is to keep focused and keep the negative thoughts out. Mm-hmm. You'll get them. I mean, we're human. We get them. That's the way we are.
Right.
But you've got to really say, I've been through some really challenging thoughts that go, the old self keeps trying to come in and crowd out everything that's going on. You're really ill. This come on. You've got to fight it. I mean, you've just got to fight it. That's it.
But I think one of the most profound things too is you've got to have a vision of where you're going, and you've got to see it. Because if you don't know where you're going, you'll succumb to the negative things a lot easier than if you know where you're going. It doesn't matter if anyone else knows where you're going, but if you know where you're going, you'll get there, because they can come or not. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a fun ride anyway, but you got to know where you're going. Yeah.
That's right. So. Exactly right.
Well, this has been really, really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me and everybody else, and it's just incredible. So,
well, I hope that those who watch this time we've had together really get something out of it and you've got to just do it.
Yeah.
you can't. I've met people who just treat the whole thing as a joke, and I spoke to a person just recently who was in hospital, a fellow who had a stroke, and he was so frustrated that he couldn't do things that he was able to do before. And his physiotherapist came and spoke to him at his bedside and said, "You know, Joe," she said, "there are things that we can do for you that will help you start doing the things that you want to do." "Oh, really? What's that?" "We'll put you into full-time rehab for a couple of weeks to get things moving again." "Oh, you really reckon that'll do anything for me?" And I was listening to all this stuff he was talking about, and I thought, I couldn't contain myself. So I said to him, I don't know whether his name was Joe or not, but we'll call him Joe. I said to Joe, "I hear that you're going into full-time rehab." "Oh, am I?" he said. I said, "Yes, I heard the conversation." "Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I said, "Joe, do it." I said, "Just do it." I said, "I went into full-time rehab as a quadriplegic and I'm walking now." "Oh," he said. I said, "Just do it. Don't miss this opportunity. They're handing it to you. What you need is right at this particular point in time. Do it."
Do it, right. I don't think people are even aware they're arguing for their limitation. I don't think they're even aware that they've practiced for so long arguing for what they can't do. They don't even know they could argue for what they could do. It's a practiced behavior that becomes so, habituated that we just sort of glaze over to the fact that we're doing it. But if somebody like yourself comes in and goes, "Look, it's enough to shake us out of our own stupor," just long enough to say, "Well, wait a second, if he can do it, maybe I can do it too."
And it's so sad to see the people that just don't do it. I was in full-time rehab for a month. They had me walking in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I saw so many broken people that just don't do it.
Yeah.
They don't do it.
Well, I hope there
And
comes
I think
a day.
you've got another way to look at it too, is that if a person finds themselves in a situation like that, I say to them, "How do you see yourself in 6 months or maybe 12 months? How do you see yourself?" They don't think about that until they're faced with that. Oh, I don't know. Well, you better find out pretty quick and make sure that you've got a goal and something to aim at. Otherwise, you'll just wander all over the place and get worse.
Yeah, totally. I hope someday that we see visualization not in just healing protocols, but be a script that you literally get a prescription to, or to visualize. Like you need to, here's your little piece of pink paper. You need to figure out where you're going, and make that part of an essential as much as everything else. It's the rehab and the dietary and all the stuff that we need. We've got to begin to understand that we create our realities. Otherwise, we're just bumping around. And it's not going to be fun.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much. You are such a blessing, and I am so excited to share this with other people. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Today is turning into the most curious adventure I've ever had.